Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Cody Proctor. This is the KREM 2 News Week in Review, where each weekend we bring you the headlines from the past week here in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days.
That's right. Matthew Mastronardi is a Spanish teacher at West Valley High School, and now he's fighting for his job back after he read aloud To Kill a Mockingbird to his students and recited the racial slurs that appear in the original text.
You would never say this in a discriminatory way, but we have to confront the history. You're not above the history.
In April, Mastronardi says one of his students brought up a question about the book To Kill a Mockingbird during Spanish class. Students and Mastronardi say the book is part of the West Valley curriculum, but Mastronardi made it clear it's not part of what they cover in Spanish class. He said that as a teacher, he felt it was important to respond to the student's question and talk about the historical context and the intent behind the racial slur in the book. He added the conversation was also important as a professional who teaches language. Shortly after, Mastronardi was informed by school district administration that his teaching contract would not be renewed.
If I pretend I'm not allowed to speak honestly because of who I am, then I'm teaching kids to do the same, to self-censor, to obey social scripts instead of their moral convictions. And that's not education, that's conditioning.
Now, some of his students are rallying behind him in support, saying their teacher would never use a racial slur in a hateful way.
I'll reiterate, he said the N-word not out of vitriol, out of spite, not directed towards anybody on any level, simply out of just intellectual honesty. And exploring literature and refusing to engage in ideas in literature that you don't like, I feel like you couldn't sustain that in the classroom.
Mastronardi plans to address the West Valley School Board next week in a meeting, and he's hoping for a reconciliation and to get his job back. I'm reporting here in Spokane Valley, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
No ruling Wednesday as Brian Cobberger's defense team asks for his August trial to be pushed back. But there was a strong hint how Judge Stephen Hippler may decide.
I fully encourage everyone to continue as if the trial is going to take place when it is scheduled for.
Lead defender Ann Taylor says the defense's request shouldn't come as a surprise.
We are not prepared to go to trial in this case. The discovery is vast, and we have not had a chance to review it all.
One thing the defense wants to review is the defendant's life story. They want to interview extended family and gather more background to fight the death penalty if he's convicted.
And it's also imperative that his history be complete with educational records, medical records.
But prosecutors say the defense already has a complete history proven in its own expert reports.
No red flags that needed further investigation were noted. Nothing about those reports appeared to be incomplete.
Taylor argues recent evidence leaks need to be investigated. She says prejudice against her client will only get worse with a book and docuseries set to air just before jury selection.
At the very least, the moment we start attempting to select a jury in this case, those things are going to be on everybody's TV, everybody's social media feed.
Prosecutors say that's just an excuse to perpetually delay trial.
It puts us at the whim of the media. Every time there's a breaking story, every time there's a new book or a new documentary, are we going to continue the trial indefinitely?
Judge Hippler said he would issue a ruling on delaying trial soon. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
But it's Jones out quickest. Now here comes Stark. It's Jones.
Being a student athlete takes discipline, and that's exactly what sprinter Ashley Willems has demonstrated the last 4 years.
I'm going through a very quick transfer portal window that I'm finding is extremely stressful.
Now, cuts to Washington State University's track and field team will take effect immediately. Before the news of cuts, Willems had 1 season left. Now she has other factors in her decisions moving forward. She's newly married, immersed in her master's program, and just signed a new apartment lease in Pullman.
I just feel bad mainly for the people coming in who put their trust in the program and really did choose Wazoo over other prospects. So for me, I'm kind of on my way out. I only have one outdoor season, so I would have loved to spend it here.
Another athlete, Riley Pyatt, runs mid-distance, and she says she's lucky to still have her spot.
I feel happy that I'm safe, but then I have all these teammates and friends that are having to leave.
She did expect changes, but not to this extent.
We knew big things were going to change, just in general with the new NCAA versus House settlement, with like the roster changes and NIL. But we had no idea like a program cut was just going to happen.
After transferring just a year ago from a small school in Texas, she's grateful she can stay, but she's still uncertain about what next season will bring.
You have reached the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline.
Since 2022, callers to the 988 Lifeline have had the option to press 3 to find connection to LGBTQ+ youth services. But that connection will soon be severed.
The concern here truly is that losing access to this will have a lethal impact.
Casey Pick with the Trevor Project, an LGBTQ suicide prevention organization, says the press 3 option is saving lives. LGBTQ children are 4 times more likely to attempt or complete suicide.
We have served 1.3 million contacts.
The Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration said the move is an effort to focus on all help seekers.
And so I'm glad you called today.
Anyone in Spokane County and the surrounding area calling the 988 crisis line, those calls are directed to Frontier Behavioral Health, one of just 3 agencies across Washington state, now preparing to lose a valuable piece of that lifeline.
Anybody that calls 988 and chooses option 3 is going to be directed to what we call a specialized sub-recipient of the call, which thus far has been the Trevor Project. They provide services through the lens of lived experience, through shared values. Somebody who's been there, done that, can create a safe space.
CEO Kelly Miller says it'll be a loss for the LGBTQ community. Last year alone, calls from the 509 area code reached 16,000. She says Washington's crisis call centers are now focusing on training staff and gathering resources for LGBTQ callers.
We wanted to train our staff to be able to respond to all calls from all communities.
988 will stay, and Miller says they're still here to make a life-saving connection, no matter who's on the other end of the line.
Whether you're scared, whether you're frightened, whether you're not sure what to expect on the other end of the line, just call. Our 988 counselors are equipped to respond, to be supportive, and more importantly, to provide resources.
We are still here for you.
Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It's been a busy week across the Inland Northwest, so let's catch you up on some of the news you might have missed.
Near Tereski Lane and South Cheney Plaza Road, firefighters and the Department of Natural Resources responded to a 2-acre brush fire just before 5 p.m. It caught neighbor Rachel Sheffield by surprise.
I went running down to the neighbor's house first to make sure they were okay and to kind of see what was going on, check it out, see where exactly it was at, how close it was to our house.
She found out it was just a few houses down from she and her family's. She says it was too close for comfort.
This is the closest call that we've ever had. This is the closest that it's been to us.
Firefighters say the fire burned 2 acres of a 6-acre property and an outbuilding was destroyed. Crews contained the fire and began mop-up around 6:30. The cause at this time is being investigated by DNR. The fire, while put out, has Sheffield thinking of the danger.
It's so dry out here, and we had a little bit of a breeze today, so things can spread pretty quickly.
It's why Sheffield says she's watering her front yard, making sure the grass is green and less likely to catch fire and spread as fast if it were dry. The American Red Cross advises those living in areas that pose a risk for wildfires to sign up for free emergency alerts from local first responder agencies, have a go plan in place in case any evacuations are issued, and to keep personal, financial, and medical records safe. It's advice Sheffield says she's keeping top of mind as the weather into summer only gets warmer.
Just really being cautious and taking those extra steps to just be careful.
Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Spokane County fire officials have lifted all evacuations here in Meade for the 1-acre Park Smith fire.
Level 3 evacuations were issued just before 4 p.m. in the area of South Meade near North Market Street and south of East Road and Sorrel Avenue, not far from where Tom Weavers lived for decades.
About 65 years.
His neighborhood roots run deep.
I built the house 60 years ago.
Weaver's home sits near the intersection of Park Smith and North Market Street. With the fast-moving brush fire burning nearby, he got word he had to evacuate. He says his daughter sprang into action.
We have 8 people in the family who are living here, so she grabbed her 4 kids and we got out of here.
Weaver himself stayed behind to move his family cars at a command center adjacent to Spokane County Fire District 9, District 4, and the Department of Natural Resources just across the street from his home. Firefighters say 24 units responded, including a plane flying overhead. The fire was contained to 1 acre just before 5 p.m., and no structures were damaged. All evacuations were lifted by 6 p.m. The cause of the fire is being investigated by DNR. Fire Chief for District 9 Matt Vinci emphasizes the difficulty of handling high winds on uneven ground as crews put it out fast.
Being in a rapidly moving environment with fire and a residential area, the situation escalated quickly. However, it's all about response time. It's all about getting the right number of resources on the scene as quickly as we can, which we did here at D9.
Weaver says while a relief, the fire is a notable chapter in his 65-year-long history in Meade.
This is the closest that I've ever had a fire come.
He says he'll be keeping a closer look at fire warnings in his neighborhood and is thankful evacuations were made, only to be lifted soon after.
I'd just like to commend the District 9 Fire Department and everybody that was involved.
Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Thanks for joining KREM 2 News this weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Right now, we're taking a look back at some of the news stories from the past week in this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review.
It's a quiet day at the Spokane Pavilion, but in about a week and a half, right here will be center court, where last year's Women's Elite MVP will look to defend her title. Gonzaga basketball fans may recognize Jasmine Redmond, both from her playing career and now as an assistant coach. But Spokane basketball, especially Hoopfest, has always been part of her life.
I've just always grown up around basketball, and to know that Hoopfest is one of the largest 3-on-3 competitions in the world is something cool, because a lot of people don't know where Spokane is.
Jasmine has played in Hoopfest from elementary school all the way through high school at Meade, and although she took a break while she was in college, she loves coming back, and she and her team took down another group of Spokane basketball legends for the title last year.
Oh, there's always bragging rights, but it was just fun just to go out there and compete against people who've played at the high level and enjoy basketball just as much as I do.
Her team looks a little bit different this year. Jessie Loretta is still playing, and now former Zag Shannon Reeder is joining the team as well. She thinks they have a good chance to defend their title, but mostly she's just excited that Hoopfest has brought them back together.
We're all competitive, and we don't really get a chance to relieve that competition anymore. So just being able to put in the 2 weekends and just compete is really fun, and what brings us back every year.
She says the Women's Elite MVP award doesn't rank very high on her long list of basketball accomplishments, but there is one trophy of Hoopfest she really loves.
I'm just happy that we get the championship t-shirt. That's what I always look forward to every year, just collecting all those t-shirts and being able just to see the accomplishments over the years.
All of the Hoopfest tournament action officially kicks off Saturday, June 28th. At the Spokane Pavilion, Caitlin Galloway, KREM 2 News.
A chaotic night with inert smoke and pepper balls used, more than 30 people arrested, and the mayor declaring a state of emergency and curfew. The scale of the events surrounding Wednesday night's anti-ICE protest, as well as questions about police tactics, leading the Spokane mayor and police chief to ask the city of Spokane's Office of Ombuds to investigate independently.
We conduct mediations, policy review, really just trying to help our police department move forward with an outside view.
Spokane Police Ombudsman Bart Logue says the review is significant. He says his office tried to conduct reviews of other significant protests in Spokane in the past, but never had any luck.
We tried to do one after the protests happened post George Floyd's murder, and we were not able to get that going. We did have a chance to look at the police department's internal review, but this will be an independent review.
That includes looking over hours of both police body camera footage and video taken by protesters that night. That video includes when smoke was used to deter protesters away from the Spokane ICE office. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office says some in the crowd slashed tires of government-owned vehicles. Logue says the elements his office gathers will help to see if the tactics used that night were the correct ones.
Even if the police have the best intentions, it's not always received in that same way from the opposite party.
Logue also commended Spokane Police Chief Kevin Hall's update about some police officers using foam projectiles and beanbags during Wednesday's protest, calling it a step in the right direction.
I really like seeing that corrective action put in there. I know his preference would have been to be right the first time, but if he's not, I like that he's letting the public know that.
Chief Hall released a statement on the independent investigation, saying in part, asking for an independent review is a way for our department to build trust with the community we serve. It also provides as an opportunity to practice continued learning and improvement, which we believe deeply in.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you that you can get the latest newscasts and weather forecasts anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It's free to watch and download on Roku, Amazon Fire, and on Apple TV. Now, here's one more story before we go.
So myself and Eric Patterson, our photographer here, were just in Rowena. We were going door knocking as we were trying to find people to talk about just the devastation that we're seeing and coming across here. While we were doing so, we came across a house with a lot of cats, including a kitten here who is really suffering from all sorts of different issues and challenges. He's got burn marks on his face, and at this point we decided it was the best case scenario to take him to the vet here. And so as we are covering the wildfire, we are also obviously monitoring a lot of what's going on in the devastation and just the damage and harm that we're seeing, not only to families and their homes, but also their animals as well. So please, if you do have any animals, make sure that they are in good condition, make sure they are okay, because this is a fire that burns so thoroughly and so quickly that there's a lot of animals left stranded as well. So we just got out of the vet with that little kitten, and they tell us that he's a boy. He's about 8 to 10 weeks old. And when we were taking him in, it was really clear his face was very burnt. His nose had scarring. His cheeks did too. The vet tells us that so did his paws. Those are going to scar over as well. And they say that his coat may have been scarred in this fire as well. But because he's so young, it's kind of hard to tell at this point. Fortunately, they do tell us that he is going to be okay. And they've decided on a name, Rowena.
Thank you so much for spending a part of your weekend with us on the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here on KREM 2 for more news and weather updates. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.